chapter 1, verse 17. Now the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow up Jonah, and Jonah was in the belly of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Chapter 2. Then Jonah prayed unto the Lord his God out of the fish's belly, and said, I cried by reason of mine affliction unto the Lord, and he heard me. Out of the belly of hell cried I, and thou heardest my voice. For thou hast cast me in the deep, in the midst of the seas, and the floods compassed me about. All thy billows and thy waves passed over me. Then I said, I am cast out of thy sight, yet I will look again toward thy holy temple. The waters compassed me about, even to the soul. The depth closed me round about. The weeds were wrapped around my head. I went down to the bottoms of the mountains. The earth with her bars was about me forever. Yet hast thou brought up my life from corruption, O Lord my God. When my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came in unto thee into thine holy temple. They that observe lying vanities forsake their own mercy. But I will sacrifice unto thee with the voice of thanksgiving. I will pay that I have vowed. Salvation is of the Lord. And the Lord spake unto the fish, and it vomited out Jonah upon the dry land. Okay, let's start by talking about this fish. I mean, really, isn't this kind of proof that the Bible is a fairy tale and this stuff isn't real? This is what a lot of people will tell you. I've heard this myself from people a lot. Let's take a little bit of time to answer this. First, as Christians, we have to recognize that Jesus talked about this story when he was here on earth. He talked about Jonah spending 3 days in the belly of the fish. In Matthew chapter 12, verse 40, Jesus said, For as Jonas was 3 days and 3 nights in the whale's belly, so shall the Son of Man be 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. To what was Jesus comparing Jonah's time in the fish's belly? Exactly. Jesus spending 3 days and nights in the grave before his resurrection. So Jesus believed that story enough to use it to make a point. He used it in another place in the Gospels as well. I'll let you look that one up on your own. Secondly, did you know that the most unexplored part of the universe as we know it is the deepest part of the ocean floor? On the website UNESCO.org, they state, more marine species have been discovered in the past decade than ever before, with an average of 2,000 discoveries per year. But what about those that have become extinct? We find fossils on land. We don't find very many fossils in the deep sea, and there are parts of the deep sea floor that we have not even explored. There simply is no way to know what kind of sea creatures used to exist but are now extinct. So we cannot say for 100% sure that it would be impossible for a sea creature to swallow Jonah and spit him out. We simply don't know. The most honest thing we can say is, I believe it, or I don't believe it. Well, I believe it. I believe it is possible for God to have done that. There is no way that one can prove absolutely that such a creature never existed. It is very possible that at one time a creature lived that could swallow Jonah and a few days later, spit him out. So, hopefully that helps you. A couple of answers for you there. Now to Jonah's prayer. This prayer is a prayer of thanksgiving to the Lord. Sometimes you wonder, was the fish a punishment or was it a blessing? And to answer that question, we have to understand this prayer. Jonah was in the fish's belly when he prayed this. But where was Jonah when he prayed his prayer for help? In the fish's belly, he thought back on that and was remembering it. Let's look at this chapter a little more closely. In verse 3, Jonah says, "For thou hast cast me into the deep, in the midst of the seas, and the floods compassed me about. All thy billows and thy waves passed over me." So, midst of the sea, waves passing over him. Look at verse 5 of chapter 2. "The waters compassed about me, the depth closed me round about, and the weeds were wrapped around my head." He is just about to the bottom of the sea. Here, the waters are all around him, the dark is around him, the seaweed down, it's all there. And when did he pray for help? I would think as soon as I got thrown in the water, I'd be like, "Lord, help me." When did Jonah pray for help? Look at verse 7. Jonah said, "When my soul fainted within me, I remembered the Lord." He was just about done, just about drowned and dead. And then, at the bottom of the sea, he remembered the Lord and prayed. The Lord hears us, no matter how far away we think we are from him. At the end of this prayer, we see Jonah offer thanksgiving. He is praying in the fish's belly and thanking God for his salvation. The fish rescued Jonah and was indeed a blessing from the Lord. This fish is not a punishment, but a tool that a powerful God used to rescue one of his people. What did Jonah say? "Salvation is of the Lord," in verse 9. And today, our salvation only comes from the Lord through Jesus Christ. The next thing we see, Jonah made that fish or sea creature so sick that it vomited him out on the land. What an experience. In chapter 1, we learned that we cannot flee from the presence of our God and that God is in control of everything, including nature. Here in chapter 2, we see again that we cannot slide so far away from God that we are out of his reach. God can hear and see you, and most importantly, he is ready to help you if you want him to. We also see that God will send a savior. Here, it was a fish. Many years later, it would be Jesus. Jesus who saved me from an eternal death. It is important that we see this fish as an act of God's love and mercy. Jonah did not deserve this. He disobeyed God and put those sailors' lives in danger. But when he truly called out for help, even though he didn't deserve it, God was ready with a means of salvation. We don't have a God that sees us go against him and says, "Fine, have it your way. Go be miserable and I won't help you." We serve a God that lets us make choices, but will work to help us make right ones, and will be ready to send a Savior even when we have gone against him and don't deserve it. God's love for us is so great. And we are going to see this in the next chapter, here on Young Theologians.